Today's episode is for the men who want to know how to actually turn their woman on. Not like the shiz you learned in the TV pickup artist version, okay? The real version. And it's for the women who want to understand their own desire better so they can ask for what they actually need. Because here's the thing, most men are trying to turn their women on the same way they get turned on themselves. And those are completely different systems. What works for you will not automatically work for her. After nearly 20 years in the intimacy and wellness space, I have the real guide. No manipulation tactics, no tricks, just what actually works and why. Welcome to the Law of Cassidy, where we talk intimacy, business, power, healing, and the conversations most people are too uncomfortable to have. I'm Cassidy, entrepreneur, mom, wife, and someone who has spent nearly 2 decades in the intimacy and wellness space. If someone sent you this episode, you're in the right place. This one's for the vain ones. Welcome back. So I thought this would be a fun thing because so many of you in my DMs are like, I don't know how to tell him what I want and I'm not enjoying sex. Or so many dudes are like, why doesn't she ever want to do it? Or I don't feel like she's ever getting there. And I was like, okay, we need to pull this back a bit and get into the nitty gritty. So first we're going to start with how female desire actually works. So we need to talk about how it actually works, because if you skip this part and nothing else in this episode is going to land correctly. You need to understand this. So men and women get turned on differently. It's just a fact. Not because women are complicated, but because their desire system has more moving parts than men. So research from sex scientists Bancroft and Jansen introduced what they called the dual control mode of sexual arousal. So it changed everything about how we understand this. And I feel like it's a great way for you guys to understand it. So here's the concept. Your sexuality has both a gas pedal and a brake pedal. Okay. The accelerators are the things that turn you on. Attraction, touch, novelty, tension, feeling desired. The brakes are the things that turn you off. So stress, feeling taken for granted, anxiety, exhaustion, shame, and resentment. Okay. So the key difference between men and women are statistically more likely to have sensitive brakes, which means for a lot of women, it's not that the accelerators aren't working. It's that the brakes are still on. Okay. So before you focus on turning her on, ask yourself what might be turning her off. Is she stressed? Is she overwhelmed? Feeling unseen or underappreciated? Carrying the mental load of the entire household? And when I say mental load, I wish I had this guy's Instagram. I keep thinking about it. There's a guy on Instagram that he talks about this in relationships. Mental load is not just cooking dinner. Mental load is, what are we going to have for dinner on Monday? Because on Tuesday, we're having spaghetti, and Wednesday, we are having a taco bar. So I think Monday, since we're having Italian and Mexican, Monday, maybe we should have shepherd's pie. Do I have potatoes for the shepherd's pie? I probably should go to the store and get potatoes and cheese. And that is mental load. Every task in a woman's brain has a even deeper mental load. And a lot of men just don't understand this, right? Great example, daughter who dances, she competes, right? Okay, husband's just like, I got to go to my daughter's dance competition. Mom is like, okay, do I have the hairnet for her bun? Does her lipstick, is it dried out? Do we need a new one? Have we steamed her costumes? What time do we need to be there for curtain? What do we need to do for this? Does she have this? Do we have extra snacks? Do we pack that? That is mental load. And dudes, the minute you understand mental load and you start lifting that from her, you're going to have a ton of sex. Okay. But that's what you got to think about is mental load. Okay. So a woman's whose brakes are fully engaged cannot access desire no matter what you do. So this is not a character flaw. This is biology and you need to work with it. So the single most powerful way to make a woman horny, okay, is to make her feel genuinely, deeply desired by you. Not complimented, not appreciated, desired. For a lot of men, feeling desired is nice, but not necessary. For most women, It is the switch. It is the thing that changes everything. And when you do it right, you won't need much else. Okay. So compliments work, but only if they're specific and real. So you look beautiful tonight is fine versus I noticed how hard you worked on that presentation today and it turned me on is a completely different thing. Okay. Notice what matters to her. Compliment that specifically. If she's been working out, tell her you've noticed. If she did something incredible as a mom today, tell her how attractive that her capability is to you. If she got dressed up, tell her exactly what it's doing to you. Also, men, first red flag. If you're going on a date and she decides to dress up and you literally go after her and you're like, why are you dressed up? I thought this was just going to be, you just literally full brake pedal on. Okay. You look great. You look dressed up. I'm going to adjust my outfit because I want to, dress up with you. Instead of being annoyed, get dressed up, dude. Okay. Play the part. Okay. Generic compliments land in the friend zone. So specific ones land in the bedroom and you get laid more. It just is what it is. So touch that actually shows intent. So touch her in ways that make your desire obvious. So not in ways that only happen when you want sex. Because if she only gets touched when you want something, she starts to feel like an object instead of a person. Hand on her lower back when you're out, arm around her shoulders, pull her towards you in the kitchen for no reason. Rest your hand on the inside of her leg on the couch. These touches say, I want you without being transactional, and it is important and it does matter. So touch her like you want her all the time, not just when you're trying to initiate. That distinction is everything. So the next thing is I need you, and I know men are like, I don't think this way. Like sex is sex. Like your brains you're different. You're different. And if you want to do it right, this is why we're doing this, because so many of you are coming to me and saying all these things. Okay. So I need you to show up for her life. Being thoughtful is foreplay, and I'm dead freaking serious. So take something off her plate. Handling the bedroom routine, like the bedtime routine with the kids, so she can decompress cleaning the kitchen without being asked, noticing she's been running on empty and doing something about it. So these are acts of actual desire. They say, I see you. I want you to feel good. You matter to me. Okay. For a woman whose brakes are stress and exhaustion, this removes the brakes and presses the accelerator at the same time. This is the most efficient move in intimacy. So remember back to that mental load thing? Yes. Okay. So you need to make her feel special and not just loved. So there's a difference between feeling loved and feeling chosen. She wants to feel like you look at every option in the room and you still want her specifically. Small gestures to do this are better than grand ones. So a text in the middle of the day says you were thinking about her, flowers on a random Tuesday, remembering something she mentioned weeks ago and doing something about it. These things say, I pay attention to you specifically, not because I have to, because I want to. And that feeling, that is an accelerator, a powerful one. Okay. So next we want to build the sexual tension. So making her feel desired gets that actual engine running. Sexual tension makes her want to floor it. We're like racing. We're like full pedal to the metal. Okay. So sexual tension is that feeling of wanting each other and not being able to yet. And it is one of the most powerful forces in human sexuality. So we're going to start with anticipation. You want to be building this hours before, okay? So the single most effective tool for sexual tension, start before you're in the room together. A text a few hours before you see her, not explicit necessarily, just enough. Remember, we've talked about sexting and dirty talk. There's a right and a wrong way, okay? So maybe something like, I've been thinking about you all day. I can't wait to see you tonight. A little bit, not too much, okay? I have plans for you later. Her brain will do the rest. And by the time you're actually together, she has been warming up for hours. So the anticipation is foreplay, long before the foreplay starts. I hope you were all taking notes. And ladies, if you're listening to this, I hope you send this to your man and tell him to listen, okay? Because it's so good. Okay, playful tension, not pressure. Teasing works, but only when it's playful, not pressuring. There is a massive difference between creating tension and creating anxiety. So a playful comment about what you want to do to her later A look that says more than words. Leaning in to say something in her ear publicly that no one else can hear. These build tension in a way that makes her lean into you, not pull away. The moment it becomes pressure or expectation, the tension becomes a break. Keep it light, keep it playful, let her come to you. Okay? So eye contact, this one sounds super simple. And I can't believe I'm having to explain this, but here we are. So, but most people underuse it completely. So real, held, intentional eye contact. Communicates desire without like a single word. Okay. She reads about this shit in her books. Okay. So the minute you start doing it, it's hot. So look at her like you mean it, not in a weird, creepy, staring way. Okay. In a I see you and I want you in a way. When you're talking to her, when you're across the room, when she catches you looking, the look is its own language. And if you learn to use it, you will always succeed with it. Okay. So next is like the novelty. So anticipation fades naturally in a long-term relationship because everything becomes predictable. And the antidote with this is novelty. So sex at a different time than usual, a new location, a new toy, a new dynamic. Novelty is the third most common sexual fantasy for a reason. The brain responds to new with heightened attention and arousal. So you don't need to reinvent your entire sex life. That's not what I'm saying here. You just need to introduce something unexpected often enough to keep the element of surprise alive. And it could be something as simple as a blindfold, okay? Like these are the things that like enhance things and it's not the same routine dynamic. Everything I've covered this far is general. This part is going to be very specific and it might be the most important part. So every woman has what I like to call kryptonite, okay? Something that bypasses every other system and goes directly to desire. It's different for everyone. It might be something she's embarrassed about. It might be something she's never said out loud. It could be the way you smell when you've just showered, the way you look in a certain shirt, when you take charge of something, when you're good with your kids, when you talk about something you're genuinely passionate about, when you put your hand on her throat or pull her hair, when you whisper something specific in her ear, the way you moan, the way you breathe. Everyone's a little different, okay? This list is endless and completely personal, and you cannot guess it. You have to find it. So you need to pay attention. You need to ask. You need to create a safe enough space that she can tell you without embarrassment. You notice what lights her up, and you do more of that. It's not rocket science, dudes. You just got to figure it out, okay? The most sexually satisfied women I've encountered in 20 years in this industry are not with the most physically attractive partners. They're with the partners who paid attention, who learned them, who kept learning them even when the newness worn off. So find her kryptonite and use it and keep discovering new ones. So the responsive desire thing nobody talks about, I need to talk about something that confuses a lot of people and causes a lot of unnecessary hurt feelings. Some women, not all, but many, experience what's called responsive desire, which means their desire doesn't show up before the action starts. It shows up because the action started. I fall in this category, and I'm sure many of you do too, where you're like, oh, I just don't want to do it. But then when you're like doing it, you're like, oh, I'm doing this and this is awesome. So she might say she's really not in the mood, and then you start kissing her in that specific spot, or you go down on her, or you just start and suddenly she's completely into it. This is not her lying. This is not her being difficult. This is not her not being attracted to you. This is completely legitimate form of desire that research has confirmed is more common in women than in men. Men tend to experience spontaneous desire. It shows up on its own, often without any trigger. Women more often experience the responsive desire. It responds to something that's already happening. So this means that I'm not really in the mood doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it means I haven't gotten there yet. And the distinction matters because the answer is never to push or pressure or have an expectation. The answer is to create the right conditions and let her desire show up in its own way, in its own timeline. So talk about this with each other. Know what kind of desire you each tend to be lean toward. It changes everything about you approach situations and how you can connect more with your intimacy. So we're going to get into some confessions from the DMs. So this one says, my wife is almost never in the mood anymore. It's been like this for a year. I try everything and it feels like I'm failing. What am I missing? First thing I'm going to ask is, what are her breaks? Now that you've listened to this, what are her breaks? Not what is she responding to, but what is turned on in her life that is making desire impossible to access. Stress, exhaustion, feeling unseen or underappreciated, resentment that hasn't been addressed, hormonal shifts. Any of these can make accelerators irrelevant. Start there. Have the actual conversation, not about sex, about her. What does she need to feel good right now? The sex usually follows when the question gets answered honestly. And I have fallen into this category in the last year and a half of everything we've had stress-wise in our family dynamic, walking away from somewhere I've worked for 20 years, like building my own thing, being the, person financially responsible for my household. Those breaks have been on. And so you got to figure out, okay, how can I, lift that load? Like last night, perfect example. I just really needed a minute. I was overtouched, overstimulated. We have a trip we're getting ready for. And I was like, I need to go lay in a tanning bed, which I never do. I actually have not done it in 3 years, but TMI, going off on a tangent. But Josh was like, why don't you go tanning? I'll take care of Joe. Like just helping in little ways to make me be able to lift those breaks, because there's a lot of breaks on for me right now. There's a lot of moving pieces. So, okay, next one is, I want sex with my husband, but I just don't. I love him. I'm not checked out. I just feel nothing below the waist lately, and it's scaring me. Is something wrong with me? So first, nothing is wrong with you. Low desire has causes, and they're almost always identifiable. Okay. So hormones are the first thing to check, especially if this came on gradually. Perimenopause can start earlier than most women expect, and low estrogen or testosterone directly affects desire. Talk to your doctor. Ask specifically about hormone levels. Also look at your mental load, your stress levels, how much of yourself you've given to everyone else lately. I always give shameless plug. Call my girl Haley, Mason Aesthetics. Okay. They're amazing. So desire requires a nervous system that feels safe and resourced. So if yours is running on empty, that's the answer. It's not you, it's your circumstances, and circumstances can change. Okay. The next DM is, my boyfriend is genuinely one of the most attractive and thoughtful men I've ever been with. He does everything right, and I still struggle to get turned on. I feel so guilty. What is wrong with me? So the fact that he checks every box and desire still isn't showing up tells me this probably isn't about him at all. It might be about your relationship with your own body, your own pleasure. Have you explored what actually turns you on solo, like without a partner? Do you know your own kryptonite? Sometimes the block list isn't the relationship. It's the fact that you're disconnected from your own body, your own desire. So start there, know yourself first, then bring the knowledge into the relationship. You cannot receive what you haven't learned to access on your own. That's why I'm always pro masturbation, okay? Because you got to figure out your body, okay? So this week's Covet This is for the women who just heard kryptonite section and thought, I genuinely don't know what mine is yet. And for the couples who want to discover it together. So I have a bundle. It has the We Vibe Rave 2 and the G How I Adore You G-Spot bundle. Okay. So the Rave 2 is ergonomically designed to find your G-Spot. It has a twisted shape and an adjustable hinge, 2 motors for dual stimulation, app controlled so your partner can be part of it from anywhere, like waterproof, rechargeable, built for precision. Like there's nothing hotter than setting them up, giving them a little FaceTime show. Okay. It's paired with the G How I Adore You cream. It's an all natural enhancement gel that increases blood flow and sensitivity to the G-Spot directly. So it has L-arginine. It's got menthol to awaken those nerve endings. It brings the circulation to the surface. So you apply it and let the Rave 2 do its job. For the women whose responsive desire needs something to respond to, this is a great bundle and great starting point. So it's the OG Spot bundle. You can get that at CassidyBybee.com. So As per usual, I'm going to wrap this up with a little Law of Cassidy. So here's what 20 years in this space has taught me about desire, and not only desire for all of you, but for myself too. It is not a performance. It is not something you can force or chase or trick into showing up. It is the natural response to feeling safe, seen, wanted, and free from the weight of everything you're carrying. So for men, the most effective foreplay you will ever do starts hours before you're in the bedroom. It looks like attention, like thoughtfulness, like making her feel chosen, not just loved, like actually chosen, okay? For women, it's knowing what you want is not selfish, okay? It is necessary. You cannot receive what you cannot name. Learn your kryptonite, tell someone, ask for it out loud. And for the both of you, release the brakes before you press the accelerator every time. And that's the law. That's your quickie, the real guide, no manipulation, no tricks, and just exactly what works and why. DM me your kryptonite. I can't wait to hear it. I'm serious. I want to know. And share this with someone who needs it. And if it changed something in your relationship, I really want to hear about it. This is Cassidy. This is the Law of Cassidy. And I'll see you next week. Vain ones.